ASHEN JACK. Chapter 1. Our Little World. Most people don't remember who their best friends were in first grade, but I do, because mine never left. Aaron, Moran, me, Danny. We grew up 3 houses in a row on a dead-end street that wasn't even paved until we were 10. We've lived in the same spot our whole lives, same routines, same inside jokes, same streetlight we had to be home by. In our own way, we built a world for ourselves, a little bubble where we were safe from the noise of everyone else. Aaron was always the serious one. He was the first to grow a mustache, the first to start worrying about bills at age 14, and the first to freak out over literally everything. Moran was his opposite, brave, calm, the kind of guy who'd step in front of a speeding car if you dared him because, as he'd say, "The Lord knows when it's my time. Until then, I'm chillin'." And me? I'm the glue, the jokester, the comic relief. When things get weird or tense or scary, I'm the one cracking jokes to keep us from falling apart. Together we're like a triangle, remove one side and the whole shape collapses. We had our own rituals. Every Saturday we'd bike down to Carlito's corner store for blue slushies and pick out the dumbest looking horror DVDs from the $3 bin. We'd watch them in my garage on a projector screen taped to the wall, screaming when the ghost popped out but pretending we weren't scared. That was our thing, our little world. In school, no one really talked to us, not out of hate, just indifference. We weren't cool enough, loud enough, or fake enough to play the social game. We sat at our own lunch table, got our own jokes, and didn't care much about the rest. We didn't need anyone else. But that was before the party, before the house, before ASHEN JACK. It was the fall of senior year. Leaves were turning crispy brown, the air was cool enough to wear hoodies again, and everything felt like it was winding toward some sort of ending. College letters were going out. People were talking prom, futures, life after high school. We didn't talk about that stuff much. "I'm not leaving this town," Aaron had said one afternoon as we sat on his porch steps, eating sunflower seeds. "I'll stay here, get a job, buy a truck. Live simple." "Same," Moran said. "But not because I'm scared. I just feel like this is where I'm supposed to be." I laughed. "You two sound like a country song. I'm definitely leaving. Hollywood, Broadway, voice acting, whatever pays first. You better visit me when I make it." Aaron rolled his eyes. "I'll visit you on bail after your dreams land you in trouble." "I'll bring snacks," Moran added, grinning. That was the thing about us. We didn't have much, but we had each other. And in a world that didn't really see us, we saw each other completely. Every scar, every weird quirk, every broken piece. We didn't need a crowd. We had our trio. That night, we watched one of our favorite horror movies, The Hallows Come Home, about a family who moved into a cursed house and slowly lost their minds. It was spooky in a cheesy way, with old-school effects and bad acting, and we knew every line. During the big finale, I looked at the guys and said, "We should totally go ghost hunting sometime, like, actually." "You mean break into an abandoned house and get arrested?" Aaron said, clearly horrified. Moran smiled. "Only if it's haunted by a demon with a budget. Or a killer with fashion sense," I added. We all cracked up. We didn't know it yet, but that joke was going to follow us into the worst night of our lives. Chapter 2. Not invited, never needed. The cafeteria at Granger High smelled like regret and yesterday's pizza. The tables were uneven, the light flickered in one corner, and someone always managed to spill milk no matter what day it was. But it was ours. We had our table in the back left, wedged between the vending machine and the emergency exit no one was allowed to use. Nobody else ever sat there, not because it was gross, but because we sat there. And in Granger High, once you got a label, it stuck like gum to the bottom of a desk. We were the outcasts, the weirdos, the trio of what are they even doing? Fine by us. Tell me again why you packed tuna and peanut butter, I asked, recoiling as Moran opened his lunchbox. It slaps, he said confidently, biting into the monstrosity. It slaps your taste buds into calling the cops, I muttered. Aaron just shook his head. You two are going to end up in the ER one day, one for food poisoning, the other for sarcasm overdose. I smiled. This was the usual rhythm. Lunchtime banter. It kept the day bearable. That's when it happened. Out of nowhere, a shadow loomed over our table. We looked up and saw him. Braden Callister. Tall, varsity jacket, hair that looked like it was constantly being auditioned for a shampoo commercial. He was one of those seniors who didn't need to speak to be heard. People just noticed him. He was dating the head cheerleader, captain of the lacrosse team, the kind of guy who never knew our names and probably thought we were just extras in his high school movie. Yo, he said, nodding. We stared. Was he lost? Y'all coming to the party next Friday? He asked. We blinked. Party? Aaron finally said. Yeah, Braden replied, hands in his pockets. End of October bash. Same spot as always. The old house on Marshland Drive. Starts after dark. Bring whoever, just don't break anything again. He looked directly at us when he said that. Then he walked away. Just like that. No explanation, no laugh, no punchline. We just sat there, frozen. Okay. What was that? I asked, eyes wide. I think we just got invited, Moran said, slowly blinking like he couldn't believe it either. Are we sure it wasn't a prank? Aaron asked. Like, are there hidden cameras? Am I about to end up on TikTok in a clip called Watch Us Mess with the Weird Kids? I mean, he seemed genuine, I said, half believing it. Like, what if this is the school's apology tour? Late, but whatever. Moran leaned forward. You realize this is a once-in-4 years type of situation, right? A crossover episode, nerds invited to jock party. Or we're being set up to walk into a pool filled with gelatin, Aaron muttered. Either way, I grinned. I'm not passing this up. We're going. Aaron groaned. Moran smiled. I marked the date on my phone. Friday. Marshland Drive. Party. That Friday came fast. We met up just after sunset. The sky streaked with gold and pink. Moran had snacks in his backpack. Aaron had a flashlight, because of course, and I had a hoodie 2 sizes too big and a fake sense of confidence. The house was only a 15-minute walk from our neighborhood, tucked past a rusted gate and overgrown trees. It sat at the edge of Marshland Drive like something out of a horror movie. 2 stories tall, charred roof, shattered windows, the whole shebang. And yet, people partied here. There were beer cans on the lawn, a couple broken lawn chairs. Someone had even spray-painted Class of 2022 Rules across the garage. We paused at the front steps. You sure this is the right night? Aaron asked again, sweating already. I literally wrote it down, I said, holding up my phone. Moran shrugged. If it's empty, we dip. No big deal. I pushed open the door. It creaked like it had rehearsed for this exact moment. The inside was wrecked. Wallpaper peeling, burn marks on the ceiling. But there were signs of life, recent life. Red Solo cups littered the floor. An empty keg sat in the corner. Glow stick bracelets were scattered on the stairs. Okay, this is not what I expected, I whispered. People definitely party here, Moran said. Not tonight they don't, Aaron muttered. We stepped inside. The air smelled like wet ash and something metallic. The floor creaked beneath our feet. In the distance, something shifted, like wood settling or something else. We walked past the living room, through a narrow hallway, and into the kitchen. More red cups, a broken speaker, candy wrappers, all of it recent. That's when we heard it. A soft dragging sound, skirk, skirk, coming from the basement. We all froze. Probably a raccoon, I said quickly. A drunk raccoon. Let's just check it, Moran said. Quick peek, then we leave. I hate this, Aaron said. I turned on my phone flashlight and opened the basement door. It yawned open like the mouth of something ancient. Darkness stared back at us. We stepped inside. The stairs groaned. The walls felt moist. I could see my breath even though it wasn't cold outside. We reached the bottom. A busted chair, a broken table, a wall with blackened claw marks, like someone had tried to dig their way out. I turned around to say something. Slam! The basement door above us slammed shut. A click followed. Aaron sprinted up the stairs. He yanked the knob. Locked. Nope, he shouted. No, 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 no! We're locked in, Moran said, voice calm but tight. I pulled out my phone. I'll call someone. But the screen showed no service. Same here, Moran said, holding up his phone. It just cut out. Aaron fumbled with his screen. Mine was working outside. Why would it... Signal block? I said. Or maybe the house just kills bars. That wasn't funny, but I said it anyway. Because if I didn't, I might scream. We stood there, hearts pounding, trying to figure out what to do next. That's when I looked up. Through the tiny grime-smeared window at the top of the basement wall, someone was watching us. A silhouette, still and tall, just standing there, not moving, not speaking, just watching. Chapter 3. Dead Wrong. Friday. We didn't move for a solid 10 seconds. That figure in the window didn't either. It was like the whole world just paused. No wind, no sound, just the sharp static of fear ringing in my ears. Then Aaron whispered, "Did you see that?" "I see it now," Moran replied. "I don't think it sees us," I said. "The window's too dirty. It might just be..." The figure disappeared, just gone. No sound, no footsteps, just vanished, like a switch flipped. We all exhaled at once, like we'd been holding the same breath. "That's it," Aaron said, panic rising. "We're leaving, right now. Screw the party, screw Braden, screw whatever that was. We're not staying." "Door's locked," Moran reminded him. "Unless you plan on punching your way out." Aaron didn't respond. He just backed away from the steps, shaking his head. I tried to joke. "Okay, so, this is obviously a prank. They're trying to scare us. Halloween's around the corner. Classic setup. Empty house, creepy sounds, fake figure. Someone probably dressed up and peeked through the window." "Why would they do that?" Moran asked. I shrugged. "Because high school?" He didn't look convinced. Neither was I. We decided to keep moving, partly because we didn't want to stand still, partly because standing still felt wrong. The basement stretched farther than I expected. It wasn't just one room. It was more like a small maze, half-finished walls, torn insulation, burned beams still stained from the fire. Some of the wood looked like it had claw marks in it. "This house isn't right," Aaron muttered. "Even before us, something happened here." I didn't answer. I was too busy stepping around a broken chair when I saw something shoved into the far corner. It was a pile of red Solo cups. Not new, not old either. Half melted, stacked like someone had been hoarding them. Next to it sat a keg, empty, like it had been rolled down and forgotten. Party leftovers. "People have been here," Moran said. "This isn't just old junk." "Yeah," I added. "But where are they now?" Aaron scanned the room with his flashlight. "Upstairs is trashed. No one's answering. We're trapped in a basement. And there was someone at that window." He turned to us. "I'm done pretending this is a prank." Moran sighed and pointed to a small, narrow side door near the furnace. "Let's check that. Maybe there's a way up or out." The door creaked open with a thick, wet sound. It wasn't just old wood. It was warped from heat. Inside, the smell hit us like a wall. Burnt plastic, old grease, and something sour like wet carpet that had never dried. The room was small, cramped. Shelves lined the walls, but they weren't holding tools or boxes. They held scraps. Charred school folders, melted action figures, a singed lacrosse glove, a photograph stuck to the wall with what looked like melted wax. Moran stepped forward and peeled the photo off. It was a boy, maybe 14, standing in front of this very house. The siding was clean in the photo, the grass still green. The boy was smiling, but something about the eyes. "They lived here," he said. "Who?" I asked. "Someone who went to our school. This kid, he wore our uniform, the old version." "This was what, 10 years ago?" I stared at the picture, then at the pile of things beneath it. Someone had kept this stuff. "Guys," I whispered, "this isn't a prank." Aaron turned, his flashlight shaking. "What?" I pointed at the corner of the room. Sitting on a crate was something unmistakable, a plastic Halloween mask, half melted, taped over with a printed photo of someone screaming in fire, a random face, distorted and agonized. Next to it, a drywall hook, rusted, sharp, still stained at the tip with something dark. "We need to get out, now," Aaron said, backing toward the door. Moran agreed. "Let's go. We'll find another way up." I nodded, chest tightening. But just as we turned, bang! Something slammed against the basement door. Hard. Then again. Bang! 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 Footsteps above. Fast. Heavy. Skirk! Skirk! The dragging sound was back. Louder. Closer. Aaron froze. "He's in the house." "No. He never left," I said. We bolted from the side room, hearts pounding, footsteps thudding against concrete. The overhead light flickered, once, twice, then went out. We were swallowed in dark, and just before the blackness took over, we heard him breathe. Close, too close. Chapter 4. Down the stairs. The lights blinked out like someone flipped a switch. We were instantly blind, no sound but our own panicked breathing. The air felt tighter, hotter. I could hear something dripping, water maybe, or sweat. And then, skirk! The hook again, dragging across the wall, close. Moran's voice broke the silence. "Run!" And we did. I grabbed Aaron's sleeve, and the three of us bolted down the hallway toward the stairs. My phone's flashlight was the only light we had, just a narrow, shaking beam that kept catching glimpses of moldy brick and broken wood. Behind us, thud, thud, fast footsteps. "Don't look back!" I yelled, voice cracking. We reached the stairs. Aaron scrambled up first, nearly tripping over his own feet. Moran went next, but halfway up he turned like he had to see it, and he did. He froze for a split second, mouth open. "He's real," he whispered. Then he kept running. At the top, Aaron rammed the basement door with his shoulder once, twice, but it wouldn't budge. "Help me!" he shouted, shoving with everything he had. Moran joined him. I turned back, holding the flashlight toward the stairs, and that's when I saw him. ASHEN Jack, rising from the shadows like he was born from them, head tilted, mask glowing faintly in the phone light, that screaming face taped over his own. He didn't run, he didn't speak, he just climbed. Slow, deliberate, one hook in the wall, one foot on the steps. Watching, always watching. The door finally burst open. We fell into the hallway like survivors clawing out of a grave. "Upstairs!" Aaron screamed, pointing. We took off again, this time across the main level. The house groaned around us, floorboards bending under our feet, old picture frames clattering as we passed. The front door was still locked, chained shut with rusted metal. We reached the stairs to the second floor and bounded up. Behind us, clang. The hook hit the wall again. Then silence. Too much silence. The second floor was worse. Most of the walls were scorched. The paint bubbled from old fire damage. Every door was slightly ajar, like they were waiting for us to choose wrong. We ducked into a bedroom. It was mostly empty, save for a broken dresser and a half-melted mattress. Aaron slid a wardrobe in front of the door while Moran yanked the curtain off the window. "No good," he muttered. "Nailed shut. The frames fused." I backed away from the wall, heart thudding so loud I couldn't hear my thoughts. Then clink. We turned. A floorboard in the hallway creaked. Aaron shook his head. No. That's not. Clink. Skirk. He was outside the room. Moran gripped a busted chair leg like a weapon. "We fight if we have to." I grabbed a broken lamp and braced myself. The doorknob started to turn. Suddenly, crash. The wardrobe exploded inward, wood and metal flying. We screamed and backed up as the door slammed open, revealing ASHEN Jack, taller up close. His mask twisted in the flickering hallway light. His dry, charred jacket crinkled as he moved. He lunged. Moran swung the chair leg. Crack! It hit Jack in the shoulder. He stumbled back, grunted, then came again. Aaron threw a desk drawer at him. I hurled the lamp. It shattered against Jack's chest, sparks flying. And still, he came. But the hits slowed him. We took the opening and ran, back down the hall, back down the stairs. No plan, just get away. We burst through the kitchen door. Behind us, we heard a yell. Aaron tripped. Jack caught up. We yanked Aaron up, all three of us heaving, shaking, barely keeping our footing. Through the kitchen, through the dining room, back toward the front door, still locked. We stopped, cornered, breathing hard. Moran looked at us. "We're not getting out that way." Aaron shook his head. No signal, no exits. He knew we'd be trapped, and I said it because it needed to be said. He's not playing, he's hunting. Chapter 5. The first glimpse. We backed into the living room, our breaths fogging in the cold air like it was winter inside the house. No one spoke. The hardwood creaked above us, slow steps pacing the hallway like he was taking his time. The kind of walk you only do when you know you'll catch what you're chasing. Aaron gripped a broken curtain rod like a bat. Moran had a bent piece of metal from a coat rack. I had nothing but my fists and a pounding heart. And then the footsteps stopped. Silence. I aimed my phone light at the stairs. A shadow moved. Then he stepped into the beam. ASHEN Jack. Full height. No longer a blur or a figure in the dark. He was real. His jacket was blackened and crumbling at the edges like it had been on fire for years. Pieces of it flaked off when he moved, trailing ash with every step. His pants were charred slacks, with one leg partially melted and sticking to his skin. A rusted chain hung from his belt loop, clinking softly. And his mask, that mask. A cracked plastic Halloween face, warped from heat, with a photo duct-taped over it, faded, wrinkled, showing a random screaming face, mid-burn, mouth wide, eyes stretched, forever caught in agony. It wasn't his face. It wasn't anyone we knew. But it made him look like a man frozen in fire, like he wanted the world to see what burning alive looked like. In his hand was the drywall hook, long, rusted, curved at the end, dragging against the railing as he walked. Skirk. That sound again, that metal on wood whisper of death. We didn't run this time, not right away, because fear had taken our feet. Then Jack charged. No warning, no scream, just pure speed. Aaron was the first to react. He swung the curtain rod hard. Jack blocked it with his hook, sparks flying as metal hit metal. Aaron screamed as the rod was yanked from his hand and clattered across the room. Moran jumped in, swinging his coat rack bar like a sword. It slammed into Jack's shoulder, hard enough to make him grunt and stumble back a step. That's when I saw it. He bleeds, not much, not bright red. But something dark oozed from under the collar of his jacket. He's human, or he was. "Move!" I shouted, pulling Aaron toward the hallway. We bolted through a side door and into what looked like an old dining room. It was half burned, with chairs melted into the walls and soot-stained wallpaper peeling in curls. Jack followed, but slower now, limping slightly from the hit. "He's hurt," Moran said. "He doesn't care," I replied. Aaron was shaking. "That hook, he could have." "Don't think," I told him. "Just move." We darted toward the back of the house, trying doors. One was jammed, another was nailed shut. A third opened into a laundry room with a shattered window we couldn't fit through. Then the dragging started again. That scraping sound, getting louder. He was right behind us. We turned a corner into a hallway lit only by moonlight through broken blinds. At the end was a small bathroom. We ran in and slammed the door. I locked it. Aaron shoved the cabinet in front of it. Moran held the handle. We were panting, covered in sweat and dust and fear. "I hit him hard," Moran said. "He bled." "But not like a normal person," I replied. "And he didn't scream. He didn't flinch. Like he liked it." "He watched his parents burn," Aaron whispered. "That's what the stories say." Moran and I looked at him. He was shaking. "They say he lived here," Aaron continued. "The fire killed his family. No one ever found him." I nodded slowly. "ASHEN JACK." Moran crossed himself. "He's not a ghost." "No," I said, eyes fixed on the door. "He's worse." From outside the door, we heard 3 slow taps. Tap, tap, tap. Then silence. Then slam. The cabinet jolted. The lock bent. "Hold it!" I yelled. Jack slammed again. Slam. The hinges cracked. Then, nothing. Silence. Aaron looked at me, wild-eyed. "Did he leave?" Moran shook his head. "No, he's still here." We all listened, and that's when we heard it. Thump, thump, drip, drip. Something leaking from the ceiling. I looked up. A hand came through the ceiling tile. He was above us. Chapter 6. Run or burn. The ceiling tile shattered. Moran screamed first, more shock than fear, as ASHEN JACK dropped down into the bathroom with way too much grace for someone that size. The drywall hook slashed through the air. Aaron grabbed my arm, yanking me backward as the blade missed my shoulder by inches. Moran shoved the door open from the inside and we exploded out into the hallway. Jack right behind us, breathing like he hadn't in years. Deep, raspy, hungry. We sprinted through the back of the house again, this time ducking into a tiny den filled with old furniture, some of it melted into weird shapes from the fire. "Block the door!" I yelled. Aaron flipped a recliner. Moran dragged a burned bookshelf across the doorway. Jack slammed into it a second later, the whole wall trembling like the house itself was in pain. Boom, boom. The drywall cracked. We braced everything we had against it, and for the first time since we got here, Jack didn't push harder. He stopped. "Why did he stop?" Aaron whispered. "I don't know," I said, catching my breath. Moran turned to a corner of the room. "Yo, guys." He held something up, charred, soaked in soot, pages half melted, a diary. We huddled around as Moran peeled it open, flipping past ruined pages until he found one that wasn't completely destroyed. October 3rd. Jackson didn't speak again today, not even when I screamed at him. I told him we wouldn't tolerate weakness in this house. October 10th. The school says he's being bullied. I say he needs to man up. If he cries one more time in this house, I swear. October 21st. He drew something today. A boy on fire. He said it was the real him. We looked at each other. "He lived here," I said. "He was abused," Moran added. "They ignored him at school, and he came home to this," Aaron whispered. Then, skirk. That sound again. The hook. But not at the door. From inside the wall. I spun toward the drywall behind us. Thud. A hand punched through it. We screamed. Jack's arm reached through, swiping blindly. Aaron grabbed a metal table leg and slammed it into his forearm once, twice. Jack retracted the limb with a grunt. "I hit him! I hit him hard!" Aaron yelled. Moran threw the bookshelf down. "Let's move before he—" The ceiling cracked again. "Go!" We sprinted into the kitchen, crashing into a pile of broken dishes. A trail of melted photos led across the tile. I picked one up as we ran. It was a yearbook photo. Not of Jack. Not of anyone I knew. Just a face, mid-scream, burned around the edges, the same photo taped to his mask. "Whose face is this?" I whispered. "No idea," Moran said. "But he's made it his." We didn't have time to process. Behind us, Jack reappeared, limping but fast. Blood or something like it dripped from his jacket. His hook dragged a burning line across the wall. He was setting fire to the house as he moved. "He's trying to burn us out," Aaron yelled. "No," I corrected. "He's trying to watch us burn." Moran grabbed a chair and hurled it at him. Jack ducked it, but it bought us seconds. We ducked through the living room, then the hallway again, doubling back as smoke curled under doorways. "He's sealing us in," I said, "like he wants us trapped." Aaron collapsed against a wall, coughing. "We're not gonna make it." "Don't say that," Moran snapped. Jack advanced again, one arm slower now, hook dragging behind. We turned a corner and came face to face with a door we hadn't seen before. Old, steel, locked with a bolt. Moran kicked it once, twice. The third time, it swung open, revealing a charred staircase leading downward. To the basement? I asked. Circle back and find another exit, Moran said. Only choice we've got. We took the stairs 2 at a time, lungs on fire, Jack's footsteps above echoing like a countdown. The basement felt worse than before, like it had soaked in the pain from above. We moved fast, deeper than we had earlier, into a room we hadn't noticed, hidden behind a rusted sheet of metal. Inside was a cot, a shelf of canned food, burned blankets, a gas can. Aaron turned to us, wide-eyed. He's been living down here. Chapter 7. History in Ash. The room was small, claustrophobic even. The walls were blackened concrete, and the only light came from my phone's flashlight, casting long, shaky shadows. In the corner was a cot, its frame bent, the mattress thin and permanently stained. A single charred teddy bear sat on the edge, its face half melted into something unrecognizable. Next to it, a wooden crate. Moran pulled the lid off, and inside we found scraps of life, if you could even call them that. A burned journal, a school ID badge, the plastic warped. A photo singed around the edges of a younger Jackson Pry, standing between 2 parents who weren't smiling. His father's hand was gripped tight around his shoulder, too tight. And behind them, this house, before the fire, before the rot. Aaron flipped through the journal, careful with the brittle pages. There were dozens of entries, all shaky, some almost unreadable, some clearly written in the dark. A few were fresh, ink dragged violently across the page like he could barely control his hand. He read one out loud. They said they were sorry. They said they didn't mean it. But they laughed when it started. I watched it catch the curtains first. Then her nightgown. Then her scream. They said it was just a joke. The room went still. We knew what it meant. The fire, I said softly. It wasn't an accident. Aaron nodded. They did it. Students, Moran added. Bullies. Seniors. They lit his house on fire, I whispered, with his parents inside. Moran dropped the journal. No wonder he snapped. We sat in silence for a moment, the flicker of my flashlight bouncing off ash-covered walls. I don't think any of us could fully absorb it. Jack wasn't just a monster. He was made, and not by some demon, not by the house, by them. People like Braden and whoever else thought it was funny to light a fire and walk away. I looked around the room again. The makeshift bed, the canned beans, the stacks of old newspapers. He's been down here this whole time, I said. While the world moved on, while school kept going, while those kids graduated. Some of them are probably parents now, Aaron muttered. They have no idea he's still here. Moran stood and walked to the corner. Guys? We turned. He was holding a list, names written in black ink, sloppily, angrily, some crossed out, others circled. Travis, Ben, Lacey, Graham, Braden, and at the bottom, us, circled, fresh ink, still smudged. He doesn't even know us, Aaron whispered. Why would he put our names? Because we were here, I said. Because we walked into his home. Moran nodded. This isn't about knowing. It's about being seen. And to him, anyone who steps into the house is just another face in the flames. That sent a chill down my spine. We took what we could, photos, the list, the journal, and made our way toward a back corner where the floor dipped and a set of old pipes disappeared into the wall. This looks like it might lead somewhere, Aaron said. Maybe there's a way out. Moran nodded. We should. Clang. We froze. The gas can tipped over on the shelf behind us, but no one had touched it. Then we heard it. The drag. Skirk. Closer. Not above. Not below. Inside the room. My light swept the far corner, and there he was, standing in the archway like he never left. ASHEN JACK, breathing heavy, head tilted, hook dripping. Smoke trailed behind him, and in the flicker of flame from the torch in his hand, we saw the cot start to burn. Chapter 8. 2 sides left. Go! Moran shoved me toward the far end of the room, where the pipes curved into what looked like an old maintenance tunnel. The heat behind us surged as flames licked up the cot, black smoke curling along the ceiling. ASHEN JACK didn't charge this time. He watched. He always watched, as if burning his past all over again gave him peace. Aaron was the last to move. He hesitated, just for a second. Then the hook came down. Clang. It slammed into the shelf inches from his face. Sparks flew. Aaron stumbled back, barely ducking a second swing as the blade cut a deep gash into the wall behind him. "Aaron!" I screamed. "I'm okay!" he yelled. "Go!" Moran grabbed my wrist and yanked me into the tunnel. The heat was unbearable. The walls narrow and slick with condensation and old ash. We could still hear the fight behind us, the sound of wood breaking, grunts, another slam, then a scream. "Aaron! Aaron!" I tried to go back, but Moran shoved me again. "Danny, he told us to run." I choked back a sob. The tunnel twisted, forcing us downward. Farther. Farther. The last thing I heard from that room wasn't a voice. It was the sound of fire. We crawled for what felt like forever. The tunnel opened into a small furnace room with vents above us and a rusted door off to the side. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air, heart pounding like it wanted to escape my chest. Moran leaned back against the wall, his face soaked in sweat and grief. "He stayed behind for us," I whispered. "He fought," Moran said. "He didn't run, not this time." And that's what hit the hardest. Because Aaron, panicky, nervous, always looking for the exit Aaron, fought back. And now, he was gone. I pulled out my phone. Still no service. Still 1% battery. The screen dimmed, then turned off. No pictures, no signal. Just black glass now. I put it away. "I'm going to kill him," I said quietly. Moran didn't argue. He just looked me in the eyes and said, "Then we survive first." We opened the furnace room door and found ourselves back near the front of the house. We'd made a full circle. Everything was different now. The air was thicker. The smoke had spread. The walls sweated soot. Pictures on the wall were burned at the edges. Some melted entirely, but one remained. A school photo, framed, centered on the hallway wall. I moved closer. It was Aaron, smiling, wearing his band hoodie. I froze. "I took this," I whispered. "That's my photo." Moran stared at it. "What the?" Another photo fell from the ceiling like it had been waiting. It was me. We both stepped back, and the fire alarm, silent until now, suddenly shrieked, high, deafening, endless. But no water, no help, just noise. "He's showing us the end," Moran said. "Like we're already dead." "I'm not dying here," I replied. "We fight." We turned the corner and heard something clatter upstairs. A boot step, a dragging hook. But this time, we didn't flinch. We climbed the stairs, step by step, and prepared to face him. Chapter 9. Faith and Fire. The stairs creaked beneath us as we rose toward the second floor. Every step felt heavier than the last, like the house itself was mourning Aaron. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But there was no time for either. Moran was ahead of me, shoulders squared. Every breath he took came out like a prayer under his breath. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't have to. He was getting ready, and something in me knew. He already knew how this would end. We reached the landing. The hallway was darker than before, like the fire below had sucked the light out of this floor. A soft orange glow flickered from the room at the end of the hall. Moran turned to me. "You remember when we were 9? He asked suddenly. I blinked. "What?" "When we snuck into your garage at night and watched Night of the Hollow Men on that busted projector. You screamed when the monster came through the wall and said, 'If I ever die in a horror movie, I'm taking someone with me.'" A smile cracked through my panic. "Yeah, I remember." "Well," he held up his metal pipe like a sword. "Guess this is my sequel." We crept toward the glowing room. The door was wide open. Inside, a burned bedroom, the walls scorched, the bed a skeleton of springs and frame. A single chair faced the window, silhouetted by the flickering light of fire below, and sitting in the chair, ASHEN JACK. Still, silent, watching the world burn through broken glass. He didn't move, didn't flinch, just waited. Moran didn't hesitate. He let out a roar and charged, slamming into the chair. But it was empty, a decoy, a mannequin, its mask a copy. The real one was behind us. I screamed as Jack burst from the side closet, hook first. Moran turned mid-swing, deflecting the attack with his pipe. Clang. Metal sparked. "Go, Danny!" he yelled. I froze. Jack swung again. Moran blocked, then jabbed him hard in the ribs. Jack stumbled back. "He bleeds!" Moran yelled. "You see? He hurts!" He pressed in, striking again. Jack took the hits, but each one seemed to excite him. His breaths came faster, harsher, like he loved the pain, like it made him feel alive. Then Jack ducked a swing and drove the hook into Moran's leg. Moran fell hard. I screamed and rushed forward, but he looked at me, eyes clear, no fear, and shouted, "No, run!" Jack raised the hook again, and Moran did something I'll never forget. He grabbed the hook, wrapped both hands around it, and pulled Jack down with him. "Burn with me," he whispered. Then, with his other hand, he reached into his pocket and struck something, a lighter, a flare. The flame burst up as he shoved it into Jack's coat. Whoosh! Fire erupted. The room lit up with orange and red. Jack screamed, or maybe that was just the mask crackling. Moran and Jack went down in a heap of flames. I backed away, tears streaming, shaking so hard I could barely stand. "Moran!" I sobbed. No answer, just the roar of fire. I ran, down the hallway, down the stairs, smoke curling behind me like fingers trying to pull me back. Every step burned, every breath hurt, but I didn't stop, because I knew if I did, I wouldn't leave either. Chapter 10. Now it's just me. I didn't know how I made it down the stairs. I didn't know how I could still breathe or see through the smoke or keep moving after losing both of them. But I did, because stopping wasn't an option, because dying here meant Jack won. And Aaron and Moran didn't go down just for me to end up next. The house had changed. It wasn't just burning. It was becoming something else. The walls pulsed with heat. The photos melted like wax. The air shimmered like the house was exhaling its last breath. I stumbled into the kitchen, coughing, eyes burning, legs barely carrying me. The fire had reached the ceiling now. Embers drifted like fireflies from hell. I leaned on the counter, choking down air. That's when I heard it. Thump. Skirk. Thump. The hook, dragging again, coming closer. I ducked into the hallway, past the scorched photos, back toward the front door. Still chained, still locked. Then I saw something. The basement door, wide open, and next to it, a gas can, half empty, still dripping. He didn't just trap us. He planned to burn us alive from the start. I backed away, trying to think, heart racing, feet trembling. Then I heard the voice, low, gravel, barely human, not from Jack's mouth, from behind the mask, just one word, burn. He was there, standing at the end of the hallway, mask still smoking, jacket charred but somehow still clinging to his frame. His hook dragged at his side. His other hand held the lighter. He struck it once. Flame. I froze. He struck it again. A bigger flame. Then he threw it. The hallway ignited. Fire chased me like it had a will of its own. I dove into the laundry room, slammed the door, and rolled across the floor. The fire roared past like a dragon's breath. I screamed, batting away burning cloth and falling embers. And then, silence. For a moment, I lay there, staring up at the cracked ceiling. Every inch of me hurt. My arm was burned, my jeans were torn, my shoes were melting at the sole. But I was still alive. I crawled toward the basement. If that was the way out, if that tiny window could still open, I had to try. I reached the stairs and looked down. Smoke poured up from below like a volcano, but the window at the far end, it was open. Just a crack. Enough for air, enough for a shot. I slid down the stairs, hands on the wall to balance, then boom! The wall behind me cracked. Jack burst through it, hook swinging. I screamed and ducked. The blade sliced the air above my head. He swung again. I rolled down the last few steps and hit the floor hard, chest first. He charged. I grabbed a pipe from the ground and swung it with everything I had. Clang! It hit his knee. He stumbled. I scrambled for the window. He grabbed my leg. I kicked again. The hook came down, grazed my side. Blood. I screamed. One last kick, he let go. I lunged for the window, shoved myself through. The glass cracked, tore into my hoodie, and I hit the grass outside, coughing, choking, rolling into the dirt. Behind me, the house groaned. The flames roared. The roof collapsed. And still, no scream from Jack. Just the fire, always the fire. I limped down the street, my body aching, smoke rising behind me like a monster's shadow. I didn't stop walking until I saw headlights, until someone yelled my name, until the sirens came. I collapsed in the middle of the road. Everything went dark. Chapter 11. The ashes lie. I woke up to the sound of radios crackling and someone calling my name like they were underwater. Miss, can you hear me? I opened my eyes. A flashlight burned into my face. Behind it, uniforms, flashing lights, smoke swirling in the night sky. The house was gone. All that remained was a blackened skeleton of wood and flame. A monster finally killed, but too late. They wrapped me in a blanket, asked me questions I barely understood. I was covered in ash, blood, dirt, and what was left of my mind. An EMT checked my pulse. Someone dabbed at the cut on my side. But I wasn't listening, because I kept seeing it. Irun's scream, Morun's fire, Jack's mask, the click of that lighter. Burn, burn, burn. At some point, I started talking. I was with my friends, Irun and Morun. We thought the party was tonight. They invited us for next Friday, but I got the dates mixed up. We went to the house on Marshland Drive. One of the officers nodded. He had kind eyes, but a tense jaw. He didn't believe me yet, not really. There was someone in the house, I continued. He's been living there. His name's Jackson Pry. People used to call him ASHEN Jack. The moment I said it, the EMT beside me flinched. You've heard of him, I said. The officer cleared his throat. Local story, urban legend. We never found anything real. "He's real," I whispered. "He killed them. He was burned in that house and he never left. Until now." My voice cracked. I looked down at the blanket in my lap. It was stained red. My hands were trembling. I couldn't stop them. "Where are they?" I asked softly. "My friends." The officer didn't answer. He stepped away. I saw another officer whisper something into a radio. Another leaned toward the fire truck and pulled out 2 black body bags. My breath caught. "No!" I stood too fast. My knees buckled. An EMT tried to catch me. "No! I need to see them. I need to. I was just with them." Someone called for a sedative. "Please," I screamed. "You don't understand. He's still out there. He wasn't in the fire. I didn't see him burn. I didn't hear him scream. He didn't die." But no one believed me. They just held me down and told me to breathe. And then I heard it. "Danny." My mom's voice. Sharp. Scared. Breaking. I looked up. She rushed through the police line, her coat flapping, hair wild, phone still clutched in her hand like she hadn't hung up the call from dispatch. She fell to her knees beside me. "Oh my God, baby. What happened? I've been calling all night. I didn't know. I didn't know." She wrapped her arms around me, and that's when I let go. I sobbed so hard it hurt. Tears soaked her shirt. I screamed into her shoulder, screamed until my throat bled. She held me, rocked me like I was 5 again. "Where are Irune and Morin?" she whispered, even though I know she already knew. I just cried harder. The next few hours blurred. Paramedics, officers, my mom signing papers, a detective asking for details while I stared out the ambulance window. They said they found 2 bodies inside, burned beyond recognition, but they were teenagers. They didn't find a third. No Jack, no mask, no hook, no body. Just an open wall, a broken window, a missing ghost. I gave them everything. The diary, the photos, the names on the list. I told them what I remembered, but I could see it in their eyes. They didn't think he was real. They thought we were just dumb kids in a burned-out house, that we got scared, that I panicked. But I know what I saw, and I know what's coming next. Because ASHEN Jack was never about that house. It was just the beginning. He's not a ghost. He's not a legend. He's a survivor. And he's out now. Out in a world that already forgot what they did to him. And they'll remember. He'll make them. Chapter 12. The Ones Who Were Mine. They didn't let me go home. Too much smoke inhalation, too much trauma. They kept me overnight for observation at St. Mercy's. The irony of the name wasn't lost on me. The lights in the hospital ceiling buzzed like flies. My body ached in places I didn't know could ache. My side was stitched, my leg wrapped, my mind fractured. But I was alive, and I hated it. They brought me a notebook and a pen, said it might help to write it all down. I stared at the page for an hour before I could even spell their names. Irune, Morun, the ones who were mine. We weren't just friends. We were a unit. The only people who ever made me feel like I belonged, like I wasn't some background character in someone else's high school movie. Now they were gone, and I was here. The nurse came in with pills I didn't take and questions I didn't answer. My mom sat in the corner, asleep in a vinyl chair, her head leaning against the wall like even her body was trying to hide. The police came back too. Same questions, same eyebrows raised when I said his name. ASHEN Jack. They wrote it down. I don't think they believed me. I told them he wasn't dead, that he never screamed, that he threw the lighter but he didn't burn. They said he probably burned with the house, that no one could survive what I escaped, but I knew better. There was a moment after they left where I turned to the window and saw my reflection. I looked nothing like the girl I was before. Ash smudged across my cheek, stitches in my skin, hollow eyes in a hospital gown 2 sizes too big. I looked like a survivor, but I felt like a witness. The notebook sat on my lap, still open, so I wrote one more line, "He's still out there," and beneath that, "And I think he's just getting started." A nurse came in again. "Would you like anything?" I nodded slowly. "Can you call 2 numbers?" She blinked. "Of course." I gave her Aaron's parents' name, then Morin's. They needed to hear it from me. I needed to tell them their sons were heroes, that they didn't run, that they fought, that they saved me, even if no one else believed the rest. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat there in the dim light, my mom finally snoring softly in the corner, and thought about how different everything felt now. How hallways would be emptier, lunch tables quieter, and how no one else would ever understand what it was like inside that house, except me. I got out of the bed, careful with my leg, and limped to the window. Bethlehem was quiet at 2 o'clock in the morning. A breeze stirred the trees outside. A few porch lights flickered. Somewhere, a siren wailed far off in the distance. I pressed my fingers to the glass. "He's not done," I whispered. Because the house was never the end. It was just the place that held him. Now that he's out, he'll find them. The ones who laughed, the ones who watched, the ones who lit the match. And maybe next time, they won't be as lucky as I was. Chapter 13. ASHEN JACK. The fire had long since died. Ash and ember smoldered where a house once stood. Investigators combed through the wreckage by day, but by night it was quiet again. The world moved on. The news called it a tragedy, an accident, another case of teenagers making the wrong choices. They gave the story 15 minutes. They gave the names of the 2 found inside. They never said his, because they still didn't believe he existed. But the fire didn't consume him, it freed him. Somewhere between the twisted steel and caved-in timbers, a hand emerged, charred, trembling, alive. It pulled against the earth until it dragged the rest of the body out with it, slow, deliberate. ASHEN Jack. He rose with effort. The jacket was melted to his frame. The mask had cracked. The photo had burned around the edges, but the face was still there, still screaming, still his shield. He stood for a moment in the moonlight, body steaming, breath rattling like a furnace, breathing back to life. And then he walked. Days passed, miles too. No one saw him. No one noticed the man in the coat standing at the edge of the woods, or the figure crouched under the overpass, or the flash of silver from a hook as it scraped along a brick wall in silence. The world is noisy, distracted. That's how monsters move now, unseen. On the 7th night after the fire, Jack stood in a backyard, a quiet neighborhood, suburban, fenced in, safe. A small dog barked twice, then went quiet. The wind carried the scent of backyard grills and fresh-cut grass, but he smelled something else. Smoke, old beer, laughter. He stood still for a long time, watching. Through the back window, a man sat on a couch watching TV. Graying hair, broad shoulders. He lifted a beer to his lips and scratched his chest. The television glowed blue, a football game flickered, his kids upstairs, his wife brushing her teeth, and on the mantel, a picture. High school days, 4 seniors smiling, red Solo cups in hand. One of them, the man inside, the one who lit the fire. ASHEN Jack stepped forward, hook in hand. No words, no warning, no mercy. He placed one hand on the sliding glass door and slid it open. To be continued. At Together with Fear.